The Devil and the Beach Boy. Act 1. Enchantment and Intrigue. 1967 is known as the Summer of Love. 1968 stood in stark contrast. Chaos and disarray replaced free love and flower children. The Tet Offensive had begun in Vietnam. The murders of Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy were the flashpoints for racial unrest. The Beach Boys single, Bluebirds Over the Mountain, was released that year. The song was a welcome break from the madness. However, the B-side of that vinyl disc included a dark message, contrasting with the innocence and sincerity of the A-side. The new song was called Never Learn Not to Love. It was a Baroque ballad with lyrics uncharacteristic for the wholesome Beach Boys. The swirling, psychedelic music had a dominant, demanding tone. The actual songwriter would soon be known for more sinister reasons. Dennis Wilson, co-founder of the group, was surprisingly the only member of the band that surfed. He enjoyed the beach culture synonymous with the Malibu lifestyle, where he enjoyed the sun and warm waters of the Pacific. His generous nature and love of Eastern spirituality soon became a tragic flaw for the young musician. An unexpected encounter with one of the most terrifying cult leaders in history would send the talented middle brother of the Wilson family into a deadly riptide that the young surfer could not overcome. On a clear spring afternoon, Wilson gave a ride to two hitchhikers on the Pacific Coast Highway. Unbeknownst to him, Patricia Kerwinkle and Ella Jo Bailey were members of what was soon to become an infamous cult. This gesture of goodwill is how his nightmare began. Wilson, inspired by the discussions on spirituality and shared passion for transcendental meditation, extended an invitation to visit his house. This act of hospitality would lead to a deeper involvement with the leader and his followers. Returning home one evening, Wilson was shocked to discover Kerwinkle and Bailey inside his home. They were not alone. With them was a mysterious visitor. A man with piercing eyes sat between the two young hippies. Wilson was alarmed by the small yet somehow menacing fellow before him. The intruder slowly approached Wilson. He stared into Wilson's eyes like a cobra, hypnotizing its prey. Unexpectedly, instead of harming the young beach boy, the man knelt before Wilson and kissed his feet. This man was none other than Charles Manson. As Wilson became more captivated by Manson's charisma, he extended his hospitality further. He welcomed Manson and his group of devoted followers into his home. Manson, whom Wilson affectionately referred to as the Wizard, brought with him a cohort of young women who idolized the cult leader like a demented messiah. Wilson swept up in Manson's charm, even entertained the idea of having the Beach Boys join the cult. His band members wisely rejected the notion. Act 2. A disturbing revelation. Despite his initial enchantment, Wilson soon realized the darker reality of Manson's influence. A surreal dinner party at Wilson's home exposed the extent of Manson's control over his followers. During the evening, Manson ordered his disciples to disrobe, indulging in a psychedelic orgy fueled by LSD. Alarmed by the unfolding scene, Mike Love and Bruce Johnson, Wilson's bandmates, distanced themselves from the disturbing spectacle. As the night progressed, Love attempted to retreat, seeking refuge in an upstairs shower, only to be confronted by Manson himself, who ominously warned him against leaving the sordid circus downstairs. It became increasingly apparent to Wilson and his bandmates that Manson's influence extended far beyond harmless counterculture experimentation. Wilson unwittingly found himself entangled in something far more perilous than he could have imagined. Act 3. Exploitation and escalation. Compounding Wilson's troubles was his initial patronage of Manson and his followers. Wilson financially supported the Manson family's lifestyle, covering their expenses, including treatments for venereal disease contracted by the cult members. Manson's influence over Wilson grew stronger as the cult exploited his generosity, vandalizing his property and stealing his belongings. In a fateful twist, Manson's true nature was laid bare when Wilson claimed songwriting credits for Manson's composition, Cease Not to Exist, which Wilson had adapted and renamed Never Learn Not to Love. Wilson felt that this song was payment for the bills and theft amassed to well over $100,000. That equates to almost $1 million in today's money. The damage was extensive, including a brand new Mercedes-Benz that Manson drove into a tree. Manson's fury at Wilson's appropriation of his work escalated into threats. Manson ominously handed Wilson a single bullet, warning him, "I know where you live. I know where your children live." Act 4. The Burden of Guilt. Wilson's entanglement with Manson took a sinister turn as he attempted to extricate himself from the cult's grip. Fearing for his life, Wilson resorted to violence, allegedly beating Manson in front of his brood of misfits. He slept with a pistol under his pillow after the incident. However, Manson's hold on Wilson persisted, haunting him even after he managed to break free physically from Manson's grip. Ultimately, Wilson's fears went from his imagination to a surreal nightmare of bloody terror. In August of 1969, Manson commanded his followers to what he thought was the home of Beach Boys producer Terry Melcher in retaliation for the band's rejection of him. Instead of Melcher, the vicious cult found Sharon Tate and 4 house guests. Miss Tate, a young actress, was pregnant with a child of director Roman Polanski. The demented followers unleashed such mayhem on their 5 helpless victims that it was nothing short of demonic. The weight of guilt bore heavily on Wilson as he grappled with the realization of the atrocities committed by the Manson family. The infamous helter-skelter murders, including the brutal killing of actress Sharon Tate, haunted the remorseful young musician. It left Wilson a shadow of his former confident self. He numbed his despair with drugs and alcohol in a bid to medicate his deep sorrow. On December 28, 1983, Dennis Wilson was found floating, face down, in the waters of his beloved Pacific Ocean. He was scheduled to enter a rehabilitation facility that very morning. Act 5. Reflection and Redemption. Mike Love reflected on Wilson's sad relationship with the Mansons and the enormous impact it had on his life. Wilson's unwitting involvement with Manson and the subsequent horrors perpetuated by the cult cast a shadow over his legacy, tarnishing the image of the Beach Boys as a symbol of wholesome American beach culture. Despite the darkness that shrouded Wilson's final years, Love acknowledged the complexity of his friend's plight, recognizing the torment and guilt that Wilson carried with him until his death. Wilson's tragic encounter with Manson served as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked charisma and the seductive allure of hedonism. Wilson's story serves as a testament to fleeting innocence and the never-ending quest for redemption in the face of evil. As the memories of his turbulent journey gradually wash away, like the waves of his beloved Pacific Ocean, in the end, Manson did not win. The Beach Boys remain one of the most beloved groups in American music, Not even Charles Manson could destroy their positive message of love and hope. Like and subscribe.